everyone, Samantha McLean from Elite Agent Magazine, and welcome back to another episode of Transform for property managers and for principals. Today we are opening the doors for you on one of the closed door leadership sessions with Sophie Lyon from Jellis. We're really honoured to have Sophie in the Transform house. She is without doubt one of Australia's most experienced and successful property management leaders. Sophie's brief was to coach our principals on how to set effective PM KPIs, starting with why, a popular lesson from Simon Sinek. Sophie demonstrated how, when the team better understand the reasons behind why they do what they do and how it impacts the customer, there is more buy-in, more job fulfillment and more successful outcomes. Sophie talks through how she sets goals for her team and also why moments of sheer delight for your customers can make all the difference. Here are some of the highlights.
The topic of KPIs is, I guess it's an incredibly broad topic that I've been trying to bring back and kind of bring into context. And I guess from a real estate perspective, without wanting it to sound kind of a bit too twee, but effectively what we have to do is work from the vision that you have for your organisation, work it back into the goals that you have, that you've broken it down to already. And then the KPIs have to sit below the goals. So effectively, if you think of the vision as a house, the goals are the structure, and the KPIs are the bricks. So the KPIs are what brings it all together and actually makes it supportable and makes it continue on for the long term. This is my favourite book right at the moment, Starts With Why by Simon Sinek. Effectively, what he talks about is circles of understanding. So within any organisation, you have three circles. Effectively, everyone understands what you do in your organisation, right? The majority of people understand how you do it in your organisation. But the real key to a successful organisation and also being able to get the full engagement of your team and also your clients, and I'll segue into that later, is understanding why you do what you do. So if people don't really understand why they do their job and they don't understand why they have to do those particular KPIs, the danger is that those KPIs will never actually get done properly and they'll never be embraced by the team because they just don't get why you want them to do those things. So if I can break it right back to one particular situation. So everyone would have their property managers who do routine inspections. Yes? Okay. So from there, a routine inspection is done for what purpose? Aside from the legislative purpose, what do we actually do routine inspections for? So one of the values is definitely comfort, isn't it? It's comfort, it's peace of mind. It's knowing that someone is across their investment and they haven't got to do it themselves day in, day out. Okay. What other values do you think that you can put to a routine inspection that a client would get from a routine inspection? Yeah, so a rent review? Okay. Which is giving them an increase in their income. So the value of that to them would be that they're getting more value out of their property. But not only that, but if we told them what the property is worth in the routine inspection, so I'm not sure whether everybody's giving them that level of information in the routine. But if you were, or even that they just know that the property is being well maintained, they're comfortable that they know that their investment is growing. And so they're holding on to an asset that is appreciating. And in their mind, that relates back to a whole lot of different things. So it might be that that this investment is for a particular purpose. So it might be for setting their kids up later on. So there's a whole lot of underlying reasons why people actually have investments. It might also mean that it's a well-maintained property, so it gives them options. So they know that the increase of value in the property means that they can perhaps borrow more, so they can leverage off that investment and buy more investments. So there's a whole lot of things that actually sit behind the actual routine inspection and the reasons why we do them and the value to the client. But if you asked your property managers, they would probably stop at the point of, well, I have to do them because it's part of my job. I have to do them because it's in legislation. So if we can break down those KPIs into being actually able to demonstrate to the property manager what the value is to the client, so what the why is, suddenly it brings them into more of an engaged environment because they start thinking about what it is that they can deliver to the client. Or in an ideal team environment, they would start thinking about what they can deliver to the client. So therefore that beds in the client because they start appreciating that you understand where they're coming from. It's not just about them giving you the management of their property, it's you understanding why they have that property in the first place. Stepping back the KPIs from the vision and the goals into the KPIs is effectively reverse engineering your vision. You are looking at what your vision is, what your goals are, then the KPIs are basically what make the goals happen, and then the goals make the vision happen. In your own head, thinking about one of your core goals. So therefore, some of the KPIs that you would give your team to be able to reach that goal of gaining more managements. If you had to sit down and say to your team, this is the way that we want to get to more managements, what would we put that into for KPIs? Anyone?
Number of contacts on the database.
Yep, number of contacts on the database, okay. And what would we do with those contacts?
Well, for us, there'd be a system of contacts, so touch points.
Yep.
So the contact goes on, 7 days later they get another touch point, a month later they get another touch point, 6 months later they get another touch point.
Converting a client can be a really long process. It's like 7 times you've got to touch a client on average before they'll actually convert. But being able to give them value before they're even a client, you're right, give them information and give them specific information perhaps around the area that where their property is located, around activity that you've recently had in the market. If you've got some, like your client portal, okay, that's an ideal thing to be communicating to the client because you want to almost be giving them stuff that they look at and go, I don't get that from my current agent. I don't get that from my current agent. And as you said, Phil, they're hearing from you more frequently than they're hearing from their existing agent that they're actually paying money to, but they're not paying you anything, and yet they're getting all of this quality information sitting behind it. So being able to break it down to what the client actually wants is part of I guess the broader business goals that can actually, so you have your business, your financial goals, you have the customer goals, and then you can also have employee goals, which are all kind of intersecting. But at the end of the day, you need to understand the why behind all of them. And understanding the why behind the client and giving them the value, then that's going to resonate with them and it's going to want to make them interact with you longer term. It also helps with team engagement as well, by giving them the understanding of what it is that they should be doing on a day-to-day basis, but why they're doing it on a day-to-day basis. And one of the really cool things that I heard, I don't know if everyone has, is on McKinsey Insights, but highly recommend those. It's an American organisation, but they do a lot of podcasts, a lot of emails and online. And there's a lot of research that sits behind the data that they have. And there was a recent one that they had, which they were actually talking about designing an organisation. And they talked about having singular moments of delight, which I thought sounded like the coolest thing of all time. Because if you could get something like that into your organisation, if you could get your team thinking about how to make transactions a delightful process for the client and have them recognise that as being something that was enjoyable and that they got value out of, and that that made them want to interact with you again. You can even just by the phrase, you can appreciate how valuable that would be and how impactful that would be for an individual. When someone rings up for an appraisal, you're having a chat with them as you always do, and you're getting the information from them. And then at the end of it saying, hey, we're just doing a bit of a survey around the office. How do you take your coffee? And, oh, why would you ask me that? Just, we're just having, just random kind of a survey that we're doing. Strong, skinny, flat white, no sugar. Oh, right, okay. Then you turn up at their door to do the appraisal. They open the door and it's, hi Samantha, here's your coffee. So it's that costs what, I'm from Melbourne, coffee's expensive down there. I'm going to say about $4, but it's $4 to create a really lasting impression with somebody. And if you're not the sort of person who has a coffee maker at home and you're staying home to meet the new business consultant because you want to lease your property out, you haven't had your coffee yet, and some little angel comes to the door and says, "Hi, here you go, here's a coffee." It could be a complete non-thing for someone, but it could really kind of tip the scales in your favour. And then the next agent turns up and they're kind of like, "Well, all right, well, what have you bought me?" "You bought me nothing." I've got myself all excited now, so I've gone off on a tangent. But in order to provide that level of delight to your customers, you need to work it back and figure out, well, why they're customers and why they choose to do business with you, why they stay and why they'd move. And one of the most essential ways to do that, obviously, is just to ask them. And to be able to see whether the involvement and engagement and communication levels from your team, whether they're actually paying off, comes down to the measurement of your KPIs as well. So there's obviously different ways for you to measure KPIs, and one of them can be around client engagement. So is anyone using Net Promoter Scores at the moment? So on a scale of 1 to 10, if you ask your clients how likely they are to refer you to somebody else, then they become your promoters effectively. So if they are an 8 or a 9 out of 10, then they're completely engaged with your business, and they're the people who are out there talking about you out in the market. If they're a 1 or 2 or a 3, then they're 1 foot out the door. You've got one more thing and they're out, and they are effectively out there telling people that you are average or below average or a complete waste of time. Everyone in the middle is ambivalent. And so they really don't count those people. You dismiss those numbers in the middle. So what's that, 4, 5, 6 and 7? You don't worry about. They're the people who are kind of, swing voters, essentially. So the Net Promoter Score, how many 8, 9s or 10s you get, actually adds up to a total number. So the higher your number, the higher the value of your business of your service, I should say, to the clients that you have. So it's quite an easy thing to do internally. It's what you do with that data at the end of the day that will actually convert you or can convert clients from the bottom rung into the middle and eventually up to the top. Now there are organisations that can do this for you, and then they can give you a bit of the background of the data and the underpinning of the data. And even better if you can say to them, why did you give us this score? Give them the option to actually write something in, because if people really don't like you, they'll tell you why they don't like you and what you're doing wrong. And if people love you, off the chart love you, they will more than likely come back and tell you why they off the chart love you. In some cases, it'll be related to an individual. So they might say, Sally is the greatest property manager I've ever had. But you want to drill into why Sally's the greatest property manager that they've ever had. Because if you can find out what Sally's doing and multiply that across your organisation, then you're going to have a whole team of Sallys, not just one. So therefore, that's going to push your Net Promoter Score up as well. Which is the other thing with KPIs, they need to be implemented. And implementation is the key part. And you were saying that before, that you had your KPIs there, but then you kind of, just let them go. Making sure that you have the structure in place to measure them and to sit down on a very, very regular basis and say, okay, are we on track? Are we off track? Which is why I think with a lot of KPIs, you need to be aware of whether they are self-reporting or whether they're something that is actually able to be measured against the information that is in your system and being able to support against that. Because the danger with any self-reporting KPIs is that you're not actually getting the real information. And if you're not in the business day to day, it can be very difficult for you to be aware of whether you are being told the absolute truth, a half-truth, completely the wrong thing, especially when things start to go off track, is when they'll start to fudge the figures a little bit. And it's the worst time for those figures to get fudged, because if things are going off track, you need to know and you need to be able to pull them back. So having the mechanisms within your business to be able to do that, that investigation around the KPIs, just to be able to dive in every now and again and make sure that the information you're being given is actually correct. As far as the goals as you go as well, being able to look at them and know when they have to be revised.
So some great stuff from Sophie there, and if you're keen on watching a bit more of Simon Sinek, we have some links to a few of his greatest hits on our website. Next up, the second part of our closed door leadership sessions with peak performance coach and regular elite agent contributor Tanja M. Jones, who completely challenged our leaders to empower their teams and take complete responsibility for the success of their businesses. Remember, if you've missed any episodes, you can catch up online at eliteagent.com.au/transform, and I will see you next week.